everyone, you are watching Do Well, Do Good, and we're at the beautiful Collective Boutique Flying Solo in Soho. I'm Lucy, and today I'm very honoured to be sat having a discussion with human activist, best-selling author, and of course, seasoned businesswoman, Barb Stegemann. Barb, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So Barb, I want to dive straight into what you've been doing, what you're continuing to do, and the impact that you're having, because it's really, really impressive. But before we go there, you deliver talks all over the country, and you are helping advise people when it comes to the strategy of really reaching a socially conscious goal as a company. At what point in your career did you realize what your purpose was as a professional?
Yeah, I don't think there was one moment per se, but certainly leading up to the realization, right back to when I was 8 years old. I always saw myself as a businesswoman doing good. I didn't know what that meant or what that looked like. From a vantage of someone who has had the mice chew the blankets in her bedroom as a child, those kinds of sufferings that occur when you live in extreme poverty, and you sort of look at it through a lens of someone that has lived in poverty, and you think very clearly about the dignity that a person deserves. And so it shaped me into building a model that is not about charity, because it's not lasting. It's about long-term dignity and jobs, and also not even philanthropy. It's about welcoming people to the banquet, including them, and being equals.
So it sounds as though that was the beginning of this journey. And I know that there was a point specifically when you received news about your best friend that in some ways became the catalyst towards you building this social enterprise. So take me back to that moment and what happened.
My best friend, one of my first mentors who I met in university, Captain Trevor Green, was sitting in a peaceful shura in Afghanistan, serving in the Canadian forces, and he took his helmet off in this peaceful shura out of respect. And a man who didn't want to see his community have free thought or free will put a Taliban axe through my best friend's head. He made it through the night. We went on this long healing journey with his angel wife, Debbie, and his family, his parents, his children, and friends. And in the hospital, I said, okay, I got this. That's what you would do for a best friend. I got this. You go heal. I'll take your mission on while you heal, and then I'll hand it back to you when you're all better. And then I realized, I don't got this. I'm a woman in a patriarchy, and I didn't have a way to touch peace. I'm not a brave soldier. I'm not a world leader. And in this broken model, I had no access point to carry my best friend's mission. In the hospital, I decided that I was going to do it in a new way. I realized that women own the buying power, women own the voting power, and I thought if I could harness women's buying power and voting power, that we could change policy, that we could get women running for office, that we could change outdated laws. So I took all the Stoic wisdom of Plato and Socrates and Aurelius that Churchill and all the boys used during war and strife, and I wrote a book for women. And it's empowered women to go all the way to Senate, to run grassroots municipally, to launch companies, to end bullying, and that's really how it all began. And then I brought the thesis of the book to life when I read about this man, Abdullah, in Afghanistan, and he was growing the legal orange blossom and rose to get the farmers off the illegal poppy crop. And the same people that attacked my best friend were knocking over his distillery. And I knew this was my way of continuing the mission of peace for my best friend, so that his injury was not in vain. It's very important that for all of our military family, that we as citizens recognize that we cannot expect our military to do all the heavy lifting alone. That where are we as citizens to come up with innovative ways? And for me, it was in particular for Captain Green, was to carry on his mission. So I flew to Ottawa, met with CEDA, which is the Canadian International Development Agency, much like USAID. He said, help me find Abdullah. I connected with him and I bought what little oil he had, and I launched on International Women's Day and ensured that he and his farmers were not being forced to grow the illegal poppy crop, and that he had a buyer. And so what was interesting was I only learned a year later that Abdullah almost gave up before I found him. And imagine how fragile life is. And I am his largest buyer of orange blossom oil. He has doubled his distillery. It's very rewarding to see that if you take a risk, it pays off. Right? So I think my real job is to make rebuilding sexier than destruction, and I just do it through perfume. And perfume's just the vessel. So I don't get overwhelmed by the daunting industry. I just think about that purpose, that mission, that drive, like a soldier has. And with that, nothing distracts me. You can see it as clear as day and stick to it, and how it manifests itself isn't really the issue. You see? So I think that's... Well, you know, in Canada and the US, we don't have the regulations yet that we do need. The EU has them. So we actually spent all the money and hired the chemists and got EU approved. So it means that everything's listed on our packaging, and you know exactly what's in the product. I think that needs to happen in North America. We have to change our policy. People should know what is in their product, every last ingredient. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. If you look at something like CVS pharmaceutical chain, last year, 1 year ago, they banned phthalates, parabens, and sulfates from all beauty products by 2019. So you're seeing these champions in retail saying, no, but it really is up to us as citizens to push on our government leaders, or perhaps some women out there watching will run for office and start passing these bills. You know, we worked very closely with our Senate on passing Bill S1E2 recently in Canada, and it is the Cruelty-Free Cosmetics Act. It's not only ensuring that animals are not being tested on, because there is no scientific proof that an animal needs to be tested on. But it's also a bill that's ensuring that products from other countries that are testing on animals are not allowed to come to your country. And so this bill has taken years to get through Senate, which is ridiculous. It's finally passed third reading in Senate. The US is in the same situation, just trying to get your bill passed as well. And we as citizens have to call our governors, call our senators, call our politicians and say, I believe in these bills, I want them passed. And it's up to us to push on our government or run for office, but to be educated.
What do you stand for?
My goodness, I stand for having a really good time. You know, this life is one quick trip, and you've got to protect your joy and have fun.